How is the income tax fund distributed as school aid? Well, Wall Township has 4,000 students. You get $3.2 million, or $781 per student. Compare that to Asbury Park. They have 2,316 students. They get $57.6 million. They're getting $24,885 per student. They're getting 32 times as much per student. So after the residents of Wall Township send in 5 times as much per person, that accounts for economic differences, and that makes sense. It goes down to Trenton, and they divide it up, and your students get 1/32 the amount. Now, what does this mean for every dollar you send to Trenton? This page, what do you get back from Washington, D.C.? Washington, D.C., we send $1 of federal income tax from New Jersey, we get 61 cents back, and that makes us very mad. I'll tell you why. Because we're dead last in the country, number 50. So people, when we send a federal dollar down to Washington, D.C. as income tax, federal income tax, you get 61 cents back. Now, how does Wall Township do on this deal with Trenton? For every dollar of income tax Wall Township sends to Trenton, in income tax, state income tax, you get 8 cents back. Now, you should be really mad, because if we're getting 61 cents back as a state and we're mad, you're getting 8 cents back. In comparison, for every dollar Asbury Park sends to Trenton, they get $15.02 back for school aid. So, now I'm going to take comments and questions at the end. Let's go to total expenditure per student. Now, we're supposed to do this to even out spending. But let's actually see, according to the Department of Education, how much is being spent in Asbury Park. They're spending $26,782 per student. Wall Township is spending less than half of that, $13,000 per student. Ladies and gentlemen, these figures do not include 3- and 4-year preschool that is fully funded by the state of New Jersey in Asbury Park. It does not include the free schools that are built by the state of New Jersey in Asbury Park. Suburban towns, most of them have to go to the voters, most of them have to save money or float a bond to build new schools. And our suburban towns, of course, don't have 3- and 4-year preschool. A lot of our suburban towns are actually cutting to half-day kindergarten just because they don't have sufficient resources. So, in spite of this, in spite of the fact that Wall Township sends in 5 times as much, in spite of the fact that you get 1/32 of the amount back, in spite of the fact that Asbury Park's spending twice as much per student, and there's no results, I bet you get a lot better education in Wall Township. The New Jersey Supreme Court, guess what? This spring, they said that's not good enough. And they actually ordered the state of New Jersey to send $500 million more to the Abbott districts. Districts that in many instances actually manipulate the numbers that they send to Trenton to maximize the school aid. Manipulate the numbers so they can have a better lawsuit before the New Jersey Supreme Court. So, my plan, the Fair School Funding Plan, which is on the next page. The Fair School Funding Plan works like this. We collect the income tax progressively, so if you make more, you pay more. The bottom third pays 0. All this money goes to Trenton. It's been collected progressively. What we should do under the Fair School Funding Plan is divide that money equally. Every student, regardless of where that student lives, would receive $7,481 per student. What this would do would stop the manipulation. It would stop... It would stop instances such as the one school district that was paying its bus drivers overtime to charge up their cell phones at home. Nice work if you can get it. Stop the situations where the Jersey City superintendent went on a 5-star hotel trip of England on your dime with limousines and steak dinners and expensive bottles of wine. It would give everybody some skin in the game. Now, what would this mean for Wall Township? What would this mean for 85% of the school districts in New Jersey? It would mean they would get more school aid and you could lower your property taxes. Wall Township is receiving $3.2 million. Under the Fair School Funding Plan, if you multiply 4,070 students times $7,481 per student, they would receive in Wall Township $30 million for the Fair School Funding Plan. That would be an increase of over $27 million a year. And you know what we would do with that money? We'd give it back to the property taxpayers.
Yes.
The homeowners, and the business owners that are paying those property taxes. So a lot of people say, gee, you're being very unfair to the folks in Asbury Park. But remember I told you about for every dollar you send in, what you get back? Let's see how Wall Township does now. This is what the towns get back for every dollar sent under the Fair School Funding Plan. Wall Township would now get 72 cents back on a dollar. You're still sending a lot more in than you get back. Asbury Park would get $4.52 back for every dollar. So they're still getting back a lot more than they get back. So I think this is fair for everybody. Now, what would it mean for Monmouth County? And you can flip through and you can look at your own towns. Granted, there's a couple towns that would lose. For example, Asbury Park would lose some money. But as you can see, and they have a negative sign. So the way this works is FY12 is what that township is receiving this year from the state of New Jersey for school aid. The population is the student population for that town. The next one is Fair School Funding. You multiply the student population times $7,481. That's what the town would get under the Fair School Funding Plan. And the difference is if you get more, you get less. And the thing about Monmouth County, you can see most of the towns in Monmouth County would get significantly more money that would go for property tax relief. Some of them would go down, but some of those school districts do not have great results. Some of those school districts are spending twice as much as their suburban towns. And perhaps the solution is to give the kids that go to those chronically failing school districts the opportunity to get a voucher, go to a private school, a parochial school. You know, why should kids have to go to chronically failing schools that are spending twice as much and are not teaching the students? Let those kids get out of those schools. That's the solution.
Yes.
So, I also wanted to comment, because I know folks at the Tea Party are very sensitive about the Constitution and making sure that we adhere to the Constitution. One of the biggest frustrations I have as a member of the legislature is how our Supreme Court has hijacked the entire process. And I wanted to show you certain sections of the Constitution that show that the legislature actually has the power and that the court has actually hijacked this entire process. Article 8, Section 4, Paragraph 1. This is the famous thorough and efficient clause that you may have heard about. This is the one that the Supreme Court always likes to throw about when they're ordering the government to spend more money and send it elsewhere. It says that the legislature shall provide for a thorough and efficient system of free public schools ages 5 to 18. It doesn't say anything about the executive branch, and it doesn't say anything about the judicial branch. It says the legislative branch. You know what's interesting on these Abbott lawsuits, and this may blow your mind if you're a legal eagle or you're even interested, and I didn't even know. Until I asked to testify on this latest Abbott case. I wanted to go testify before the special master that was collecting all the information to tell him about the corruption that I told you about. They said, hey, Doherty, you can't, because the legislature was not named as a defendant in the Abbott lawsuit. I said, are you kidding me? The legislature, the one branch of government that has the authority under our Constitution to provide for a thorough and efficient system of schools, we're not even a defendant? They said, no, they sued the executive branch. That tells me that there's something funny going on, that perhaps the legislature, like Doherty, we actually have the ruby red slippers. All we have to do is click them together and stand behind the Constitution and say, buzz off, Supreme Court, and that's why they haven't sued us. Now, I'd like to show you another. If you flip over to this Article 8, Section 4, Paragraph 2, this is actually very interesting. This section of the Constitution has been on the books since 1844. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the paragraph right below the thorough and efficient clause that I just read you. This is very clear what we're supposed to do in New Jersey. And I've bolded it here. It says the fund for the support of free public schools, and then there's some legalese, and I'll be happy to go over it with you, but it doesn't matter for the point I'm making. It's legalese. But going to the bottom, shall be annually appropriated to the support of free public schools and for the equal benefit of all the people of the state. Now, you don't have to be a lawyer or a judge to understand this. We're supposed to have a school fund. It's supposed to be annually appropriated, and it's supposed to be divvied out for the equal benefit of all the people. And what did New Jersey do? This has been on the books since 1844. And the best indicator of what this meant is what New Jersey did. And ladies and gentlemen, what New Jersey did going back to 1844, we had a school fund. It was divided equally for each student. Every student got the same amount regardless of where they lived. And actually, in our last Constitutional Convention, I have a very interesting life. I was reading the minutes of the 1947 Constitutional Convention. So you can tell what kind of life I have. Me and Ron, we live exciting lives, you know, reading stacks of paper. The last convention, somebody came in and complained about this, and they said, hey, you know, it's more expensive in our town to educate our kids. We should get more money. You know what the members of the Constitutional Convention did in 1947? They did absolutely nothing. They left this on the books exactly as it is, and that's what we continued. That's what we continued to do in the state of New Jersey until the Supreme Court hijacked the entire process in the early 1970s. And it's very interesting, if you look at the Abbott cases, they like to keep throwing out the thorough and efficient. Thorough and efficient this, thorough and efficient that. Hey, you got to spend more money because it's not thorough and efficient. And you know why they gravitate and grab onto thorough and efficient? Because what the heck does that mean? What does it mean? If you ask a dozen people on the street, what do you think a thorough and efficient education is? You'll get a dozen different answers. And that's why the court loves that provision of the Constitution, because they can say whatever they wanted to say. Ladies and gentlemen, this says something entirely different than what the court's done in New Jersey. It says that we're supposed to have a fund, a school fund. It's supposed to be annually appropriated, and every kid's supposed to get the same amount of money. And this is what New Jersey did going back to 1844. We had over 100 years of track record of what the founding fathers of New Jersey and what the elected officials of New Jersey did. So the branch, the one branch that's actually violated the Constitution, in my estimation, is the Supreme Court. And we need elected officials to stand up for their constituents and say enough is enough. And people, so I've introduced some legislation. I don't think we need legislation. I think the legislature has the authority right now. But some may not be as bold as me, and they may need to support a constitutional amendment, basically an amendment to our Constitution that says when we collect the income tax progressively, that it should be handed out equally for every student in the state of New Jersey. I also have in the packet a copy of a resolution. You may want to get your local elected body to pass. We're getting this passed all over the state of New Jersey. Just last night, we had the Absecon elected body outside of Atlantic City. They passed this. We've had counties pass this. And also, I want to tell you, I have a website. So you can tell your family and friends, if they're from other parts of the state, outside of Monmouth County, they can go to my website, fairschoolfunding.com, and they can plug in their town, excuse me, and find out exactly how much school aid they would get. So I believe my plan is fair, ladies and gentlemen, because many people in New Jersey don't know that we have an income tax that's supposed to be collected to collect our school fund. Most people don't know how progressive our income tax is. Most people don't know that we have about 185 towns in New Jersey that for every dollar they send to Trenton, they get a dime or less back in school aid. Most people don't know that we have towns in the suburbs sending in 5 to 10, even 11 times as much per person. Up in Bergen County, they got a lot of rich folks up there, I guess. There's towns that actually send in over 11 times as much per person into the income tax fund, and they get less than 1/100th the amount back in school aid.